Well, guys, oh my goodness, today is such an amazing day. We have the launch of one of my good friends, Sadvi, her book. I don't know if you can see it, Hollywood to the Himalayas. What a title. What a title. Um, I just want to say that this is such an amazing book. It tells the truth of the spiritual journey, and it doesn't make it, something out of reach of the normal person, the average person, which I think spirituality can often come across as doing, this priesthood of people. But you, Savi, I mean, you're from California, and your spiritual journey took you to the Himalayas, to Rishikesh, which was where we met
Yes.
first. So, tell everybody who's not familiar with you, tell everybody just who you are, and just a little bit about the book.
Oh, well, it's so beautiful to be with you. I still remember when we met on the banks of Ganga
Mm,
and that beautiful coming together in that sacred space in the lap of the Himalayas. And I know we spoke at that time about how touched you were coming
mm,
into that land, being in that sacred space. It's a place, for those of you not familiar with India, that is the land where for thousands and thousands of years, saints and sages and rishis came. It's an official holy city in India. And it's where I've lived for the last 25 years. I
wow.
came as a 25-year-old Stanford graduate. I was in the midst of getting my PhD in psychology. And from the outside looking in, I had everything that we're told you need to
Mm,
be happy. I came from a world of opportunity, a world of privilege, a world of all of the best of everything that you could have.
mm,
And yet, I really suffered inside. I suffered from trauma I had experienced. I suffered from pain. I suffered from anger. I suffered from feeling like I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't pure enough, that there was
mm,
something inherently wrong with me. And so on the outside, everything was just perfect. And
mm,
yet on the inside, I was really struggling. And I was doing what so many of us do when we struggle, which is we turn to something to ease the pain, or
mm,
we think to ease the pain, whether it's
mm,
alcohol or drugs or food or sex or
mm,
Facebook or whatever it may be, our soft or hard addictive tendencies. We turn to them as what I've now realized is actually a spiritual quest and a spiritual
mm,
yearning to not be in the pain of this moment.
mm,
And yet, of course, as we know, all it does is make matters worse. It's not an efficient or effective way. But
mm,
that's how I was living.
mm,
And I get to India at 25 with a backpack. It
mm,
was a country I knew nothing about. I agreed to go just because I was a strict vegetarian already and knew that I could eat very well in India.
mm,
And my husband was on a spiritual quest. And so I agreed to go to India with him on a break from my PhD program. But this is where that power of the divine voice comes in,
mm,
and the divine calling, because we may not know where we're going. And I certainly had no idea what was going to happen to me.
mm,
And yet that presence of grace was so powerful that
mm,
it literally swept me off my feet, handed me this extraordinary experience of truth and awakening and understanding myself and the universe and my role in the universe. And through that, it brought me so much healing and so much transformation, and really taught me how to let go of all of that I was identifying as, all of the pain, all of the struggle, all of the addiction, and realize, hey, wait, you're not that. You're not that. You are the divine spirit, the soul. And that was 25 years ago. And I've been there since. And right there where you and I danced and sang and did the arti was where I had that extraordinary experience 25 years ago.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So I got a question, because when you say your recognition that you are soul spirit, go into a little bit more about that process of seeing, of discovering that truth, because I think of a lot of people, they go around life thinking, addicted to thinking, and attached to the belief that they are their thoughts. But the recognition that you are, in fact, something beyond the thoughts is liberating. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that, and maybe there's some guidance that you can provide some people watching this on how to discover that truthfully for themselves and not just intellectually.
Beautiful. Yeah, you're so right. It really is how most of us move through the world. We have a thought of anger, and we say, oh, I am angry. Or we have a thought of yearning for something that someone else has, and we say, I am jealous. And we give ourselves these identifications. Or we say, I am a victim of this, a survivor of that. I am. And you're right, that isn't us. For me, the experience came as such a blessing. Standing there on the banks of Ganga, I had this experience of knowing, of feeling with every bit of my being that knows how to experience. My eyes, my ears, my mind, of knowing that I was one with all of creation. That up until that moment, I had thought, this is me. Like this is me. I am this, well, at that time, 25-year-old, now 50-year-old American woman, this height, this weight, this size, this career, this history, this race, this religion, this struggles. And in that moment, I was one with all. I was one with the sky and the river. I was one with the children playing in the river, one with the families bathing in the river, one with the trees on the banks of the river. And it was just the most extraordinary awareness of, this is not where I end. This is all me. And as far as a practice, because of course the thing with spiritual experiences is they're ecstatic, they blow our minds, explode our hearts, and then something kicks in and we kind of feel that we're not back exactly where we were before, because of course we've been changed, but we're not quite able to grasp that moment again. And that's where the practices of getting back to that become so beautiful. And there's a meditation practice called niti niti. And it's a practice where, and it doesn't require, of course, any religion, any language, any culture, nothing like that. It's just a truth of who we are as soul, as consciousness. And the practice is one where you sit and you say, I am not my clothes. So I would say, I am not my sari. And okay, my mind is like, yeah, I believe that. And then I am not my skin. under the sari. I'm not the blood running through the skin. I'm not the organs being nourished by the blood. And we go through these very, very physical things that, of course, our mind is like, yeah, I get it, I'm with you. And then we say, well, I'm also not the white and gray matter of my brain, right? I'm not the nucleus of my neurons. I'm not the axons. I'm not the myelin sheath covering the axons, right? I mean, that's obvious. I'm not the chemicals in the vesicles at the end of the axons of my neurons. I'm not the electrical axon potential of potassium and calcium running in and out of that neuron, making it fire, obviously. Well, if I'm not those, and that is how we have a thought, literally a thought is an electrical potential that runs down the axon, it runs to the end of the neuron, it shoots the chemicals out of the vesicles into the synapse, the next neuron picks it up. We call that, an emotion, a feeling, a thought, a memory. But if I'm not the electrical signals and I'm not the chemicals, I'm not the thoughts. And another way of knowing that is, in the space between my thoughts, I don't cease to exist. If I were my thoughts, I would cease to exist in between my thoughts. So you're not that. And also because our thoughts keep changing, right? I mean, 1 minute we're angry, the next minute we're happy. Someone is mean to us, we're annoyed. Someone's nice to us, we feel really good. Someone cuts us off in traffic, we're frustrated. Someone brings us flowers, we're super happy. So the emotions keep changing, the thoughts keep changing. We also know that any drugs, alcohol, legal or illegal, whatever it may be, it impacts and changes how we think, right? I mean, how many people have woken up one morning and said, oh my God, I can't believe I did that last night. That wasn't me. Like, well, then who was that, right? Who was that? The only thing that was different was these chemicals that were changing how my brain operated. So if I'm not the change in chemicals in my brain, who am I? And you keep that practice of neti is just, it literally, the Sanskrit word literally means not this, not this. And one by one, I am not this. And we clear, I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the emotions. And again, we know we're not our emotions because there's so much scientific research showing that we can generate emotions in people. We can change people's emotions with, a metal prod in the brain, with a chemical, with a pill, with an electrical impulse. With little things, we can change people's emotions.
Yep.
So clearly I'm not the emotions. And you just one by one remove what you're not. And then you reach this state. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And eventually you get to this state that the Buddhists refer to as nothingness and the Hindus refer to as everythingness, but they're talking about the same thing, which is that space that exists when you've removed everything we're not.
It's so simple, right? But it's, the mind can always come in. The gravitational pull of the mind and ego can be powerful for some. And that's where the practice, I think, comes in, the constant remembrance, and so talk about that. I think, what the blueprint that you just outlined this deductive process, this neti, not this, not this, that by itself can be enough for some people. Um, but there's other practices like, yoga, for instance. Talk about the benefits of things like yoga and practices like that in reaching these places of self-discovery.
What a beautiful, beautiful question. Yes, of course. There's so many ways. Look,
Mm,
it's our natural state, right? And so the universe has actually given us so many different ways to enter. There isn't only one way. It's like I think
mm,
about our flowing Ganga River, right? You can go in down on our steps, walk down the marble steps. You can
mhm,
go upriver to the beach, walk in from the sandy beach. You can go further upriver, jump
mm,
into the river off a rock. It doesn't matter.
mm,
What matters is that you get in. How you
mm,
get in is totally irrelevant. And in the same way, we've been given so many different ways to get in to this river of truth. And that practice of neti neti is one.
mm,
Yoga, as you said, is absolutely one. And you know what's interesting and beautiful is that the word yoga literally means union. Most
mhm,
of us think that yoga means like I can stand on my head or I can become a pretzel or, look how long I can hold up my body on my arms or look, I can take my leg and put it over my head.
mm,
But the Sanskrit word yoga
mm,
means union. And it is a union
mm,
of myself
mm,
with all, with the divine, with the creator and the creation.
mm, mm,
And there's so many different types of yoga, paths
mm,
of yoga. And of course, the
mm,
practice of physical exercises is
mm,
wonderful. It's good for the body. The body is a temple. We need the body. It's our medium to
mm,
experience consciousness. But the exercises are not the yoga.
mm,
The exercises are a part, but the ultimate experience of that union can be gotten absolutely in doing the asanas, the exercises, as long as you do them with the intention, not, oh God, give me, a 20-inch or 30-inch or whatever you're looking for waist, or, oh
mm,
God, give me these bodily proportions, or, oh God, make, my biceps stronger, or,
mhm,
oh
mhm,
God, make my thighs not wobble when I walk.
mm,
As long as you don't go into it with that, if you go
mm,
into it with, oh God, through this posture, let me experience the flow of the universe. When we breathe, we speak about pran. Well,
mm,
pran, right? Pranayam, the
mm,
breathing exercises.
mm,
It's not just, an exotic form of hyperventilation or something. It's the life force. Prana is our
mm.
life force.
Yep.
And it feeds our energetic body. We speak about the subtle body. We're
Mm,
not just our bones and our muscles and our blood. We have an energetic body.
mm,
And the pran
mm,
is in that energetic body that, of course, interacts with the physical body. It infuses the physical body with life. But so
mm,
as you do the asanas, if you're doing yoga postures, as you breathe, do it with that intention of, oh God, as I take in this sacred life force, this energy that has not been changed since the time of this Big Bang, right? We know scientifically that all the energy that we have in the world today
mm,
is the same as from then, which means
mm,
that all of the sages and the saints and the prophets, whether we say Jesus Christ or the Buddha or Muhammad or Moses or Krishna, whoever we say,
mm,
any enlightened being, any tree that's ever lived, the first, alligator, all of
mm,
that that energy
Mm.
that every one of these beings
Mm.
has taken in and let out is that same energy that we are using today.
Mm.
So we say, oh God, as I bring in this sacred prawn into my muscles to hold me while I stand on my head or in my trikonasana,
Mm.
let me realize that I am one
Mm.
with that energy that is eternal, with that energy that infuses all, that I am one with that. But also, of course, it's important when you speak about yoga to realize not just the physical exercises. There's three main streams of yoga that are given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, which is like the handbook of a spiritual life. And by the way, it's not just, I mean, I know you know this, but your community may not know. It isn't just for Indians or Hindus. This is a book that everyone ranging from Aldous Huxley to so many great philosophers have said, like, this is my handbook for life. And in that handbook, we're given three ways of experiencing union. One, Gyan Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. And that's this practice of who am I? Like, I'm not this body that keeps changing. Every time I lose and gain weight, who I am doesn't change. Every time my thoughts change, I don't change. Who am I? We have the practice of bhakti yoga, which is love. That beautiful, beautiful, juicy love. Loving God, but loving God through each other. So if you love anyone and you really love them, not just their bodies, but you really love their essence, their soul, their spirit, what you're loving is God, right? If you just loved their bodies, then every time their body changed, then like you'd love them more after their shower than before their shower. You would love them, right? more when they were made up and looked good, but we don't. We love our loved ones just as much when they roll out of bed first thing in the morning as we do after they've done their whole thing. We love them as their bodies change throughout our lives and our relationships. It's not their bodies we love. We may also appreciate the body, of course, but we love their spirit, their essence. That unchanging core of them. And that's God. Doesn't matter what you call it. Use any name, any form, spirit, soul, divinity, consciousness, truth. So we love. And then the third way of yoga is karma yoga, action. Whatever we do, let it be an action rooted in the awareness of oneness. So whether it's how I smile, how I move through the world, who I help across the street, how I speak to the person who pumps my gas or pours my coffee or works for me in any way, how I interact with my neighbors, what I eat, what I wear, how I shop, how am I using the energy I've been given, the money I've been given, the opportunity to choose I've been given. How am I using that in a way that's in alignment with oneness, right? If yoga is oneness and union, then karma yoga is every action that is in alignment with union. And it doesn't, most people think about karma yoga as I volunteer planting trees every Saturday morning or one Saturday morning a month. And that's great. Of course, we all should do that as much as we can. We should volunteer as much as we can. But on a spiritual path, everything you do is yoga. What you eat, what you buy, what you wear. Is it organic? Is it fair trade? Is it vegetarian? Is it in alignment with live simply so that others may simply live? Or is it something that, you know, was created based on women and children working in sweatshops in some third world country? Is it something that was created based on deforesting the Amazon and taking away the land of the indigenous people? So it's consciousness in action. And as we become more conscious every minute, from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep, that becomes our spirituality in action.
I love that. In action. I got this massive action in the background. I always tell people, you know, you got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. It starts with being. It's not always about going out and doing the action, but first the action comes spontaneously out of the beingness. I want to reply to some comments in the chat. So the book that Safi was speaking about was the Bhagavad Gita, and her book is this one right here, Hollywood to the Himalayas. Guys, go check this one out. It's an extraordinary book. I had the honor of writing the foreword to it, and it just talks about her journey, as you can see, the journey of transformation. Safi, I wanna ask you, you know, I think maybe some people in the chat, and I know I have in my, you know, early years, I fell into the mode of postponement. You know, I was always like, you know, the spiritual stuff is cool. You know, it's okay. Let me get my money right first. Let me get my job, my career, my family, and then God, I'll go to you. So tell us about just how important what we're talking about really is.
So beautiful. First of all, I just want to say what a beautiful model you are of living this, because who you are in the world, what you're doing in the world, what you've achieved in the world, and how you are sharing your life lessons with this extraordinary community is just, it's such a gift and such a blessing. And I know that everybody who's watching this is so grateful that you are not just doing the success thing the way that you do the success thing in such a beautiful way, but that you're taking them all along with you. That you're literally learning these lessons for this entire community and sharing the journey, sharing the lessons, sharing what works with them. So just such love and gratitude for you in this world and all of the light and the wisdom that you are bringing. And, you know, listening to you talk about this idea of postponement is so funny, because since I've known you, something that has touched me so deeply about you has been your absolute unrelenting commitment to now. It's now. With you, it's every minute, every moment. I mean, you and I have known each other many years. We've spent many, 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 many hours together. And yet, if I look back on every single conversation we've had, it's always just going deeper spiritually. Like, you are not a man who wastes time. You are not a man who wastes a moment of your life. And I've seen you with so many other people as well. It's just always, how can I go deeper, learn more, expand more? So it's funny to me to even hear you say about postponing, but it is something that so many of us do. And the dilemma, of course, with it is that it's based on this really false but really pervasive idea that the money and the career and all of these things are actually what I need to be happy.
Mm.
When you say, first, let me get my money set, let me get my career set, then I'll go spiritually, the underlying assumption there is that it is the money and it is the career that's going to make me happy. And the spiritual stuff is kind of something I should be doing, like maybe, to make sure that my next life is good, but not because it actually has any direct relevance to this life.
Mm.
And what we know is that actually being spiritual is that which brings us the joy, the meaning, the peace that we are searching for in the money, in the career, in the fame, in the acclaim, in all of the different ways that we are looking for things. That which we're looking for is spiritually. It reminds me of my favorite story of the woman who's in the road in the night, and she's on her hands and knees, and this wise man walks by, a Baba walks by, and he says, "Mother, let me help you. What have you lost?" And she says, "Oh, I've lost my key." He says, "Okay." So he gets down on his hands and knees and helps her look. And after some time, he doesn't find it. And he's like, "Mother, where is your key? Like, where did you lose it?" And she says, "Oh, I lost it in the house." And he says, "Well, then why in the world are you looking in the road for it?" And she says, "Well, because see, my house is dark and outside there's this really bright street light. So I thought, let me come out here and look where it's bright." And of course he says, "Go back inside." And I love the story because we laugh. We're like, well, who in the world would look for something outside, regardless of how many streetlights there may be, when they know that it's inside? And yet that's actually what we do. We know, because we've read it or we've heard it or we've intuited it, that our real meaning and happiness and purpose and peace is going to come from inside. And yet we're like, but let me just make a lot of money first, and let me just go shopping first, and let me win the lottery first. And we just keep focusing outside. And I think, well, you would never go to a shoe store and ask them for a carton of milk. They'd be like, well, we don't sell milk here.
No.
And yet we're always looking for something that doesn't exist. And it causes such stress in our lives. I'm sure you must have experienced this as you keep thinking that you're going to get other things set and then you're going to go spiritually. There's actually a lot of stress because there's no amount of money, there's no amount of success that actually is enough to give you that inner sense of, yes, now I'm done. And so we just keep running around. I always say it's like we're trying to squeeze orange juice out of a cow, right? So you're squeezing the cow's udders, waiting for orange juice to come out. And it doesn't matter how beautiful or wonderful the cow is, it's never going to give you orange juice. And in the same way, we're trying to squeeze our careers, our financial success, our physical beauty, our social status, we're trying to squeeze that for joy and meaning and purpose and peace.
Wow.
And it's just not there.
So
we must stop postponing. Yes. So we must stop postponing. And this is where now is the answer, right? My guru Puja Swamiji always says, doesn't matter how long you've been asleep. Whenever you wake up, it's morning.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's it's an interesting and pervasive, and I think our world really, it supports these notions of chasing the material, in order to be happy. And in school we learned about this concept of relative deprivation, where you say you make $1 million. Well, you make it, and then you look at the guy who makes 5 million and you feel bad, and then you make 5 million, and then you look at the guy who makes 10 million. You don't have enough, so you make 10 million, and it keeps going. This comparing mind is the issue. One analogy I love is the one of somebody gets a new object. For instance, the newest iPhone, right? And they had an old phone for a long time, and they craved this iPhone so much, and they tossed and turned in their bed. They had all of these feelings, and then one day they finally got it. They got it. It's got all the new functions, the apps on it, and they feel so happy. And the question is, did the phone make them happy, or was it the release of the craving for the phone that made them happy? Right?
Exactly.
It's the release, this place of not craving, of non-desire. I think the Zen monks, they say, what I desire is non-desire. And it's that place of fulfillment, of contentment, not wanting what you don't have, but really loving what you do. This is true happiness.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.